Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I am Yeonjin Lim, Director of Forest Biological Resources Utilization Center of Korea National Arboretum. Yes, it's a great honor to introduce our distinguished speaker today, Vivian MALEMA, Director for Education and Empowerment Programs of South African National Biodiversity Institute. She brings over 20 years of experience in biodiversity conservation. She has worked extensively across government agencies, schools, and NGOs with a strong academic background in environmental education. For the past 15 years, she has led youth-focused programs such as Bridging into Work, which aim to bridging the gap between education and employment. Today, she will deliver a plenary speech titled Breaking Down Silos, Building Interdisciplinary Partnership through the Groen, Sebenza, and Fundisa for Change programs. Please join me in welcoming Vivian MALEMA with a warm round of applause.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you very much for the lovely introduction. But I'm also very grateful that I have been given this opportunity by KNA, by BGCI. It's a big opportunity. And thank you to all of you for attending. I just have a little story to tell, and this is a story really that is about what can we learn from each other? I'm not standing here as an expert, as if I know it all, but I'm just here to share experiences with yourselves, and maybe, hopefully, out of that, we can learn, we can start conversations together. So this presentation, just to take you through the outline, it's quite a long outline, so I won't talk to all the points, but there are just three main things that I want to talk to in this presentation. Firstly, I would like to contextualize where I come from, as in the country, as in the organization that I work for, so that the work that we have done in trying to break down silos and build partnerships is properly contextualized, and then you can understand why we needed to move in that direction. And as I make that presentation, hopefully there will be lessons that we can draw out of that. And then I'll spend a bit of time talking about some of the programs that have become possible because of those partnerships that really helped us to break down the silos. So that's in a nutshell what this presentation outline is talking to. So let's begin. So I come from a country called South Africa. Most people that I have interacted with since arriving here, they know different parts of this country. It's a very beautiful country. It's reasonably big, as you can see with the map that is there on the screen. It has 9 provinces. I am located at this one here, you know, around Pretoria. That's where I work. But I stay in Johannesburg, so closer to the Walter Sisulu, where you see that black eagle. I'm in that city. So I kind of have to travel about 45 kilometers to work and from work every morning. So this is the country that I come from. This country is actually quite rich in biodiversity. In fact, it is considered as one of the key countries for biodiversity conservation globally. So we have a big responsibility as a country. We are one of the 17 countries that are hosting 70% of the Earth's biodiversity. So our responsibility is making sure that we conserve all of this is quite big. We also have hotspots. As South Africa, we are hosting at least 3 of this, and the next slide will talk to that. So the first one being the succulent karoo, and look at the number of species that we are having there, that we are hosting in the succulent karoo. And then around our KZN coastline, around Maputo and all of that, we have the Maputo land, Pondo land, Albany, the Eastern Cape, and so on. And then most where people have been, most people that I interacted with here around the Cape, you say you are from Senby, they say, Kirstenbosch. Yeah, that's where our Cape Floristic region is, not only in the Kirstenbosch area, but the whole Western Cape. So this country, South Africa, has 9 biomes. And as an organization or as a country, the decision that was taken in order to conserve these biomes, botanical gardens were actually started across the country to conserve these biomes. There they are on the slide. I will not be talking to each and every one of them. So I just tried to plot them onto the map. Don't mind them too much. They may not be exact, but it's because of space issues. I'm trying to show you the biome. At the same time, I'm also trying to show you where it's located. So it was a balancing act between the text and the pictures. So upper north, that's where we are having the beautiful region. At least for me, it's the most beautiful. Around the Venda region, the Limpopo region, those who have been in the country, that's where we are having the forests, And then when you move down to where I am, in Johannesburg, moving into the Northwest Province, that's where you are having the savanna. And then you are moving more into the dry part of South Africa, and that's where you are having the deserts and so on. And then the Cape region that I have just talked to earlier, where you are having a lot of rainbows there. And then along the Eastern Cape, rather, I think most of you would be familiar with the alus and so on. That's where you are having that biome. And then the Free State with its grasslands. So in all of these 9 provinces, we are having a botanical garden, and these botanical gardens really help and contribute immensely towards the conservation of these biomes. But then painting a picture of a beautiful country like this, a country with a lot of responsibility as far as conservation and biodiversity management is concerned, may create the impression that it's all we have. But in reality is that we have our fair share of challenges as a country. We are quite challenged as far as development is concerned. On one end, you are having very affluent areas, densely populated, densely developed. On the other side, you're really having sorry, I need to go back. I meant to do the pointer. On the other hand, you're really having, struggling communities, high levels of unemployment, high levels of poverty. Again, a lot of intensification because of informal settlements and so on, and all the environmental problems that arise out of informal settlements. High unemployment rate, especially of young people, as depicted by those pictures at the top. You can see that these young people are even wearing their graduation regalia, pleading for work. Young people, it's quite a common sight, especially when you get into our townships, to see young people standing in the street corners, trying to get piece jobs in order to do the job. to have some income, you know, and take something home at the end of the day. Some of them are skilled, some are semi-skilled, some not so much, you know. We've had a fair share in the last 3 to 5 years of our own climate change impact. We have experienced a lot of flooding, even in Gauteng where I live. It used to be anxious moments to actually knock off and go home because you never know whether you'll be stuck in the highway between Pretoria and Johannesburg because the roads are flooded. People have been swept away in their cars and so on. KZN has been hard hit of all the provinces in our country, and it's continuing to experience this drastic climate change. On the other hand, there's been a lot of drought in some parts of the country. You know, food security and so on being issues, you know. So one end you're having lots of water, somewhere else it's completely dry. The Western Cape in particular as a province has been hard hit by fires, wildfires, veld fires, you know. Last year they had another one, a few years ago they had another one as well. Devastating fires that have left people homeless, let alone the environment and so on. And apart from that, we have our own fair share of you know, the goods and services that we are getting from the environment. Under a lot of strain in the country, you know, not a lot of water is now available, you know, from time to time we have a bit of a crisis. The whole world, I'm sure, know that we went through load shedding. We still experience some of it. People's mind boggled, you know, when you talk to people from other parts of the world and you say you're without electricity for 8 hours, they could not wrap their head around that. So these are some of the challenges that we are facing as a country. So it's not all good, nor is it all gloom and doom. So then as an organization called SENB, we are tasked to make sure that the beauty that I showed in the first slides that are presented here continues to be there, continues to be conserved. But at the same time, there are these pending risks that needs to be managed as well. So it's a balancing act. And the South African National Biodiversity Institute came into being through an act of parliament. We are what we are called a Schedule 3A entity, which means we are not for profit. We get our funding from government, you know. And what are we mandated to do as an organization? Our responsibility is to make sure that there is exploration, the biodiversity is revealed, there is a celebration of this biodiversity that I've just shared with you. We have a responsibility to deal with number regulations as far as threatened and protected species are concerned, you know, deal with issues of alien and invasive species. We have NBSEP and NBF that task us as an organization to make sure that the biodiversity as a sector has adequate skills, not only in the immediate, but also into the future. So there is a projection that we have to do that what are the future skills needs of the country. That's the responsibility that we carry as an organization as well. We also have responsibility for the climate change white paper. We've done a lot of work around climate financing and so on. Some of you will already know that we are an accredited entity as far as that is concerned. So in short then, the vision for SENB is to make sure that South Africa's biodiversity richness is preserved, is to make sure that this richness is used sustainably, is enjoyed by everybody, it's appreciated, it's valued, but we have to make impact, and the impact that we have to make sure is that these botanical gardens are well managed. We have to make sure that the zoological garden that has now fallen under our portfolio, it is also well managed. The animals that are there in terms of their welfare are taken care of. The big responsibility that we have is that we are a research institution. And as a result, we are responsible for collections, making sure that we collect, we assess, we store this data, but we also make this data available to other people. Because this data is very important in terms of the action that we need to take, in terms of the advice, the policy advice that we need to give to decision makers. And like I have just explained, the portfolio that I lead is to make sure that the biodiversity sector actually has skills to perform this mandate that it has been given to. But perhaps to have the skills in the present is the easy job. The difficult job is actually to predict what is coming and what will be needed in the future. So here I'm just trying to summarize the program of work that we do. This is program 1 that talks to the zoological gardens and the botanical gardens. This is the slide that shows the data collection that I talked about, the assessments and the monitoring that we do. I think a lot of people will be excited also. There was a lot of talk about the Millennium Seed Banks yesterday. And then this third one, it's taking all of that and translating it into tools that can be used to make decisions. As a result, we have produced guidelines to responsible mining. For example, I've just indicated that we are an accredited facility for Climate Fund. We have produced booklets on biodiversity stewardship and so on. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but it is a bigger chunk than others. As you can see, this is the portfolio that I lead on human capital development. This is a strategy that we developed a few years ago, and everything that we do as far as education, public engagement is concerned, is resting on this. We have career programs that we run with young children. We run career programs with people that are in career guidance, people that are already in the workplace. We have programs for teachers to build their foundational knowledge, and this is one of the case studies that I'll be presenting later on. And we have a big program that we call Kids in Gardens. And when we say Kids in Gardens, we are referring to both gardens, the zoological gardens and the botanical gardens. Those of you who know the South African national parks will know that they have kids in parks. We are an entity under the same department, hence we are going for the same branding of our programs. This is a big program that we are using to attract young people into the sector. So it's quite a lot that we are doing as an organization. And as I'm standing here and talking about my organization, it might create the impression that all of this work is actually done by SENB, but not at all. And in fact, we will not be able to do it all as SENB. We actually work with many other people in order to get to what we are doing. So regionally, we have people that we work with at the continent level and globally, and some of you are sitting here in this audience. And here I just grabbed a few logos. I'm not the only one who uses this slide on logos from our organization, but as you can see, the caption at the bottom, it says some of the logos, because there can never be enough space in one slide to capture these partnerships. And it's through these partnerships that we are actually working towards the breaking down of the silos. So how did it begin? How did we get here as an organization? We had to be very purposeful about it, very intentional. The reality is that we were faced with a growing mandate and dwindling resources to do our work. So there was a point when working with other people was organic and it came naturally, you know, out of relations. But as time went on, the pressure to work with others also increased, because I don't think we are the only organizations that are facing this. Many are, you know, where there isn't enough money to do what you're doing. What you need to do keeps being increased, but it's not followed by the resources to do that work. So we had to make conscious decisions as to how are we going to be able to do this. So there are a few instruments that we introduced. The first one was really a policy that we developed, and we called it a policy on a managed network in the organization. It later changed because we didn't want to create the impression in our partners that we are managing them, because it's a collaborative, equal partner kind of thing. And the instruments that came out of the policy were things like memorandum of understandings that we entered into with different organizations, just coming together around a particular purpose and saying how are we going to assist each other. But when there is going to be exchange of funds, we then enter into different arrangements where we're calling them collaboration agreements, because that's where money is going to exchange hands. We establish communities of practice, so making the point that sometimes the collaboration is not only about money, but sometimes it's about people. People are actually the ones who do the job. So you find that communities of practice, we come together, we share expertise, we share knowledge, you know, we share lessons learned in order to improve practice. And in the organization, we really had to do a thorough synthesis of this breaking down of silos. And what we then started to do was to start up committees like the cross-function committee, where we look across the different divisions and saying, you know, this work is cross-cutting. It's not residing in one department. How do we come together as an organization and support each other as colleagues to be able to get there? In some of the programs, we had to start consortiums with other people external to us. In others, we had to second people into other organizations so that our work can be carried out in those organizations. And in some cases, people were brought into our organizations so that the work can be carried on. So as we continued to do that work, we realized the benefits of working in this way, in the sense that what was once resourced, there was now resources to do it, both in terms of money, both in terms of people. But breaking down the demographic silos as well, you know, we come from a very unfortunate past as a country, and we can at times pull apart based on these demographics. But this kind of working together really helped us to overcome some of those challenges. Most importantly, we realized that working in this way actually creates access to most people. I remember example in one of the program where we sat and we deliberated to say that we need to recruit young people from, in quotes, rural universities, not the so urban based. And this particular organization had never worked like that before. They only looked at students from, you know, your Wits University, your UCT, and so on. And they have never worked with a university like Venda and so on. So it was quite a challenge from them, but because we made it part of how we need to work, they challenged themselves and went there. And the feedback we received from them was that, wow, you know, we have for so many years ignored a great deal of talent that we could have pulled from, you know. So you can see such an organization moving forward, their perception about certain universities and about certain talent from other corners of the country has completely changed. If it wasn't of that program, that university would have continued to work that way. But working in this way also brings a lot of efficiencies. I'm sure you can appreciate that, because working separately, it means you are working over there with your own time, your own people, your own money, and you are doing exactly the same thing that I'm doing. So coming together actually makes sure that we have bigger impact when we work together. We are able to share information and knowledge across, and we are able to augment the limited resources that we all have. So really, the partnership approach has helped us dismantle a lot of silos, one being disciplinary silos. You know, the tension between social scientists and natural scientists. So, you know, through the partnerships that we have, they have been brought together in one space. Some of the programs that are run are based on the science, you know, they are informed by what is coming from the scientists, and that creates engagement. If I'm going to run a program on alien invasives, I can't just go and shoot off without talking to the scientists and understand what is the most recent research and findings around that. So that working together across disciplines has really come to the fore a lot. But what we've also realized is that we work a lot now with a lot more non-governmental organizations, with private companies. What is also interesting is that amongst ourselves, as public organizations, whether at a provincial level, at a national level, with municipalities, there is also a lot of working together and collaboration. And across the department, I gave the examples earlier, you know, what we are doing in SENBI to work together as the different departments. What has become very interesting in SENBI, it's this cross-silo leadership that we developed through the cross-function steercom. I think most organizations automatically fall into, if there is any leadership that needs to be played, senior managers must play that role. And yet we are facing the reality that senior managers are on their way out of organizations. So the approach that we took with this cross-function steercoms was to actually start to nurture talent in our organizations. So the steercom committees are not led by senior managers, are actually led by the specialists in the organization, irrespective of the level that they occupy. So you find a junior manager, you find a middle manager actually leading senior managers in a particular field. And that's how they get mentored, and that's how they grow in their own confidence, and that's how you prepare future leadership in organizations. So this sounds quite theoretical, you know, just talking about what we have done. I just want to ground it a little bit by using two case studies, the Fundisa for Change program that we developed, as well as the Groen Sebenza program. But I just want to start off and say, you know, what created this kind of programs that I'm talking about, the Fundisa for Change program and the Groen Sebenza program. It really came out of the systemic challenges that we are having in the country. So we took a pipeline approach. We analyzed what are the challenges across the HCD pipeline in the country. And what we realized is that at every stage of the pipeline, there are challenges. If you look at the entry point, for example, at primary school level, you are having young people that are not able to read and write, for example. You are having teachers that were trained pre-94, and pre-94 you did not have environment, you did not have biodiversity conservation as part of the curriculum. Today it is part of the curriculum. Those teachers are supposed to deliver on that policy, but they were not trained. So then how do you begin to address that? When you move further along the pipeline and you get into high schools, you are challenged by the fact that your maths, your science is getting weaker and weaker. So if you are going to get scientists out of these young people, if you don't have interventions early enough, then it means the pool of getting scientists is dwindling. So that is why we needed to recognize that even at high schools, we need to have interventions so that by the time they graduate, we can actually have enough pool. You get into the workplace, there are challenges in the workplace. You know, what universities are producing is not always aligned to what organizations need. So there is a misalignment between supply and demand that we needed. There are issues of mentoring, there are issues of an aging sector, there are issues of dominance of males, especially in senior leadership in our country. How then do you address these things in order to transform them? So we took this pipeline approach to recognize all the problems along the way and the kind of interventions that are needed along this pipeline in order to solve this. So we had to do that. Like I said, we have a very big and expanding and increasingly complex mandate. We are sitting with a very high unemployment rate at around 34%. It's steadily coming down. And what is most disturbing is that it is the young people that are not employed. We have teachers that are supposed to build foundational knowledge in biodiversity, they themselves not having been trained in biodiversity. We have a burden that when things happen now, as we are hit by climate change, we have to be agile, we have to be responsive. So we don't have a lot of time. A skilled workforce is needed now and is needed urgently. So we then developed this strategy that is called the Biodiversity Human Capital Development Strategy. It's a 20-year strategy. We went through quite an extensive consultative process and worked collaboratively with other sector role players to develop this strategy. And what this strategy intends to do, it has 4 goals. We have to work very hard towards issues of transformation and transformation beyond the numbers. And by the numbers, I mean, you know, the gender, the race, and so on. But we are quite deliberate that we also want to transform spaces. Young people, when they were surveyed, they made the point that they don't feel that the biodiversity sector is for them. It's unwelcoming, you know. So it means that we have transformed the culture in our organizations as biodiversity organizations if young people are to join and come and work with us. We have to be more deliberate about working with rural communities. It is easy to work with urban centers because we are urban-based. But the challenge is to transform as far as changing our mindset and shift and actually go into rural areas. We have to work on the quality of skills that are coming out of our universities. Goal number 3 talks about the fact that as a sector, we have to work together towards skills planning. And once we have all of the skills, we have to make sure that we deploy them appropriately and effectively in order to deliver on the mandate. So the Biodiversity Human Capital Development Strategy has 4 strategic objectives that are linked to the goals that I have just shared. And the approach that I have taken here is that while I talk to each of the strategic objectives, I will also be highlighting some of the programs that are helping us operationalize this strategy. The first strategic objective is about attraction, which means that we are looking at increasing the number of talented South Africans to work in this. And like I indicated earlier, we have Kids in Gardens program This is a program that we are able to work with young people from early childhood, when they are still in ECD centers, up until into universities. Per annum, I think we reach around 100,000, if not more, of these young people that come through our zoological gardens and our National Botanical Garden. The ambition that I have is that every young person that does not have the means to access a botanical garden, that cannot be brought to a botanical garden by their parents, as an organization, we need to create an opportunity for that young person, at least once in their lifetime, to experience how it is like to be in a botanical a garden. So it's quite a big ambition. Our numbers are very high in terms of school-going kids. It's a vast country, but this is what we dream of. And we hope that with some of you in this room, we can work together and achieve that dream. The other thing that we do, the other program that we implement is the careers program. We use the careers program to attract young people. So we have these exhibitions that we hold, but it's not a walk-through, collect brochures and go. But what we do is that we bring out specialists in each field. We set up little stores. We take young people to the stores. They interact with the specialist who shares with them what is it that they do on the daily basis. How did they get there? Who supported them to choose that career? Who funded them? Where did they work? Where do they see themselves going into the future? So that young people actually understand that biodiversity sector and careers in the biodiversity sector are actually a viable option, and they can dream about being in this sector. I was sharing with colleagues that how I came to be here is because I live in a township that is close to a game reserve, and I would see these men and women driving in open air vehicles, wearing khaki uniforms with epaulets, and I got curious. And this is exactly what we are trying to recreate with these careers programs, bring people that can inspire young people to come into the sector. The second strategic objective is about improvement of the skills, the relevance of the skills that we produce, so that we lessen the mismatch that I talked about. There are various initiatives that we implement here. For example, we have work integrated learning, where we take conservation students, horticulturist students to come and do internships in our different organizations, not only in Sebenza, by the way, across the biodiversity sector. We also have the Sebenza program that I will go into detail with. As you can see, this is quite a big number of young people that we are trying to work with. The third one is about the retention of skills. As a sector, we for a very long time, we're losing employees to other sectors. Maybe because our salaries are not competitive enough, maybe because the organizational cultures were not good enough, and hence we needed to be more deliberate about that. So we started programs such as this Young Leadership Program, which is part of the Natural Science Collections Facility, where young people are working in museums and so on. And we are working very hard to understand what are their challenges as young people, as upcoming scientists, and how organizations such as museums, the cultures in museums, needs to be transformed so that these young people can feel welcomed, can be appropriately mentored, and eventually reach to the top, as you can see them climbing up these different career ladders that we may be having in the different organizations. So it's through various partnerships. This is a slide that indicates the kind of partnerships that we are having, government to government, department to department, local government, and so on. This is a slide that shows that as a sector, how do we work together towards creating enabling macro conditions? The fact that we have to work together to mobilize resources, because the business of building skills is not cheap. It's actually very expensive to grow the skills. So ultimately what we are trying to do really is to work together as a sector to implement this biodiversity human capital development strategy, this 20-year strategy, and as a result of that it has landed us in examples of programs, examples of organizations that we have worked with. So there are two programs in particular that I would like to focus on. On my left-hand side is the Groen Sebenza program. This is a program about young people. It's a flagship of an HCD program that we run as a sector. Its aim is about bridging the gap between education and the world of work for unemployed graduates. We initiated this program around 2013. So far, we have worked with over 3,000 graduates, right from those who hold a diploma up until PhD levels. And what we really do is to take these young graduates, unemployed graduates coming out of universities, work with sector members, place them in an organization where they get attached to a mentor. And the majority of the time, it is about them getting work experience. Because the research that we did, the employers in the biodiversity sector said, we don't have time to train young people. We want people who can hit the ground running. So that is why we conceptualized this Bridging into Work program. So it has worked very well as a program. It has really helped us a lot in strengthening different organizations to deliver on their different mandates. On the other hand, we are having Fundisa for Change program. It is a teachers program. It is born out of a consortium where teacher trainers and teacher educators came together and said, instead of us going individually to go and train teachers, let's conceptualize a joint program as teacher educators so that we can go out and deliver it rather than deliver separate mandates, which is quite consuming, quite inefficient, and is quite taxing in terms of the teachers' time and so on. This program, we conceptualized it in 2012, and like I indicated earlier, the big thing about it is to make sure that teachers are now able to deliver on this policy mandate of teaching about biodiversity and conservation when they were not trained. So we work a lot with teachers that are already in service, and we've been working very hard to try and influence pre-service teacher training so that we don't always are reactive, we wait for them to qualify and only train them. But we start to train them while they are in universities so that they can come out already knowing. And over 2,000 teachers have already been trained in this. So these are the objectives of each of the program. The Groen Sebenza program is meant to enable work-based learning for the graduates. It meant to create temporary job opportunities for them while they are on the program, but at the same time position them by bridging that lack of experience so that when opportunities come post the program, they could be in a position to occupy those entry and intermediary positions. It has helped us transform organizations in totality. It has boosted the number of mentors that we are having in the sector, and it has brought us together as a sector to have collective discussions around skills planning. What are the skills that we need? What are the skills that we are having in excess? Where are the gaps? What do we do in order to address those gaps? The ambition that we have is that we want to set up a skills intelligence system that will allow us to track all the skills that we have developed. Because so far we are having quite anecdotal evidence of all the skills, more than the 3,000 that we have trained, we really are not sure where they are deployed. So we really want to start a skills intelligence system that can allow us to track them right through their careers until they retire, so that we are able to say this young person came in as a Groen Sebenza intern. Today, they are the director of BGCI, for example. How did they get there, you know? And for us to be able to do that, you know, we need to tap into other systems in the country so that the tracking can be effective. For the Fundisa for Change program, it's really about ESD rather, sorry, I'm thinking of early childhood centers. It's about ECD, and we had a lot yesterday when UNESCO presented. It's about building the capacity of teachers to deliver on this. It's about expanding the network of teacher education providers and improving the quality of curriculum, making sure that the textbook writers are actually trained. The people who go into schools to support teachers are actually also trained, because teachers are not an island. They have to work with these resource materials. So again, I keep showing the partners that are involved. These are the universities that we worked with in order to produce the Fundisa for Change program. These are the NGOs that we are working with as part of the consortium in order to deliver on the Fundisa for Change. This slide just summarizes what these two programs have been able to achieve. So if you check at this picture here, it's people who are facilitating the Fundisa for Change. They are showing the training that they did with resource textbook writers, you know, in order to influence this. These are young people. These two pictures are pictures of the Groen Sebenza and the Emerging Leaders program. The below slides here shows the transformation that we have managed to achieve. We've registered young people with professional bodies. We have trained them in this kind of courses. And when you move to the far right of the slide, you can see them. There they are in the workplace. And they are being mentored to do all of these things. At some point or another, they will be able to work independently. So I think this slide really shows that when we work together and when we don't work in silos, there is a lot that we can achieve. We can certainly build on existing programs. The strength that institutions have in order to deliver on their mandate, we are actually able to accelerate that. We are able to do that in a shorter time. The inclusion and the transformation that we want to see in our workplaces, it happens quite quickly as well. And all these challenges that we are having, whether it's the different disciplines, whether it's issues of gender, whether it's issues of age and so on, you know, when we work together, all of those boundaries that get formed around these things tend to disappear quite quickly. So I would like to move towards concluding, and by reflecting on what is it that we have learned as we are working together in this manner. There are certainly advantages of working in this kind of approach, and our view is that working in this way has more advantages than the disadvantages. Just from the time and the resource point of view, it is more efficient, you know. You don't duplicate effort. you know, to use the common phrase, you don't reinvent the wheel. You are able to tap on to each other's capabilities and competencies. But to work in this manner, you actually require quite a high level of EQ, because as we stand here and reflect, it looks easy, but actually along the way, it's very challenging, you know, because working with people brings different personalities, you know. You are a personality yourself as you come into that. So that emotional intelligence is quite important to bring into partnerships of this. I cannot emphasize enough the sense of common purpose, a shared vision to get somewhere. I think that's what makes partnerships work. That's what actually helps in dismantling silos, you know. But there must be a will, you know. EQ is one thing, but there must be a will to make things work in a partnership. There must be that mutual respect, you know. It can't be, I know better, you don't. So you must listen to me. I must value what you bring to the table, and you must do the same thing. And what I've also learned over time is that it actually also comes with a lot of humility. I think partnerships require you to actually be quite humble in the sense of learning from others, but humility in the sense, in case you put your foot wrong, you know, doing away with assumptions and things like that. So these are my sense, colleagues, that perhaps if we approach partnerships in this manner, it might be easier to dismantle this isolated way of working. So I would like to conclude my presentation with this inspiring slide. I hope it inspires you. It shows the beauty of where I come from. But there is also another quote that inspires me. It was by our previous statistician, Padile Khotla. He said that there are a lot of advantages of working together. It's very important to dismantle silos, because if we don't do that, there are many risks, but the most big one is the fact that when parents are better equipped, when parents know better than the younger generation, it means as a society we are regressing. So with that, I would like to say the invitation from my side is open. I have been networking since yesterday. I am looking forward to working with more and more people from this presentation, from this day, and amongst yourselves. I hope there will be the same sentiments, because if we don't do that, we are risking the fact that as parents in this room, we will know better than the generation that is coming. And that's a sure sign that we are taking 10 steps backwards. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I will ask them to play you a little video as testimony to the Groen Sebenza program that we are running. Thank you.
What I liked about being part of the Groen Sebenza program was meeting like-minded young professionals within the biodiversity and the conservation sector.
First week we came here, they threw us into a week-long training program. Immediately taught us how to operate brush cutter, chainsaw, snake handling, venomous snake handling, which was by far my favorite.
Get the experience in conservation field, strengthen my skills.
I am a girl from Luxing as a Samora Machel, so flying the drone and even like touching it was such a great opportunity for me, and I'll never forget that.
The experience that I've gained in this internship is very useful for my career, because it gave me the confidence to actually know that I'll be employable after this internship.
It's essentially laid the groundwork for everything that I need to know moving forward. Coursework related knowledge, a lot of practical fieldwork related knowledge, a lot of statistical knowledge.
There's quite a lot of
companies out there that wouldn't give you a job even though you have a master's degree or a higher degree. You need a few years of experience first, and I believe that this program provides you that experience and knowledge that you need.
And this internship has allowed me to make myself more marketable and give me a better chance and opportunity into getting into the field.
If you want to excel in your career field, you have to be confident. I learned confidence in the program.
I have to adjust, so I learned to calm. I've learned to calm down.
I'd personally like to thank Stanby and the Groen Sebenza program because it has allowed me to develop as a scientist, and I am extremely grateful for that.
Nature Connect has provided us, with the help of the program, of course, with so many trainings, experienced this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. So I am really, really grateful and thankful for the program.
Thank you for delivering such a thoughtful plenary address, Vivian MALEMA. And your presence and message today have enriched this Congress, and we are sincerely grateful. Thank you. And I've been the moderator for this session, Yeonjin Lim. Thank you.
Before concluding the plenary speech, I have two announcements to share. The first is about the K&A field trip today. For delegates participating in today's K&A field trip, please proceed immediately to the designated shuttle boarding areas. Boarding areas are divided into two as follows. The first, delegates assigned to vehicles 1 and 2, please proceed to room 101. Delegates assigned to vehicles 3, 4, and 5, please proceed to room 105. You can find your assigned vehicle number on your name badge. Please ensure that your arrival at the designated location by 10:30 a.m. And then if you're late, then you may miss the bus. And then the next is lunch-related announcement. Delegates participating in the K&A field trip will have lunch at the K&A. Delegates not joining the field trip may enjoy lunch in the same manner as yesterday we do. So use your lunch coupon. You can scan the QR code on your name badge to view the list of the restaurants. Lunch will be served from 12 to 1:30 p.m. Until then, please feel free to explore the exhibition booths and posters displayed in the lobby, and be sure to return for the sessions starting at 1:30 p.m. today. Delegates attending the Congress dinner at 6 p.m. are kindly asked to arrive punctually here at the Grand Ballroom. Thank you very much.